Just walk away. Just walk away, and there will be an end to the horror.
Who just got outed, and people were, oh yeah, it was Norm Macdonald, got thrown under the bus. I kind of thought that when that happened, the public reaction was a little bit like, yeah, now you've gone too far. You can't have him. We like him, so you can all just shut it. And apparently his show is more or less back on track as a result of that.
Yeah, just for a second there, John, I think I had a little bit of audio issues in the beginning. I just want to give a quick check here in the chats. I think we're good now. But if you guys, those of you watching now, if you missed what the intro, we have John the Other as our guest, and obviously Metoo is going to be our subject, which, again, like we mentioned, it doesn't go away. And you had mentioned how the victim narrative on that side as well.
Yeah, the thing that we were talking briefly about this before we went live is specifically the Kavanaugh fiasco, which is ongoing as we speak. Yesterday, I began to notice a response from a comedian named Patton Oswalt. And Patton Oswalt, although he's, his profession is to entertain and make people happy, he's, pretty far left liberal guy. And he tweeted some response to Senator Lindsey Graham, which consisted almost entirely of unhinged cursing, F you, and then that spelled out with 14 Fs in the middle of the word fuck. And filling up his entire tweet was just repetition of "fu."
140 characters of "fuck you," basically.
Yeah. Maybe more than that. They've got a bigger limit than they used to.
Right.
But I just thought, what is in this guy's head that he thinks that is the way to brand himself? And when you look at him, yeah, he's lefty and he's afflicted with Trump derangement syndrome and so on. But he is a professional public figure who works in public and social media as his
worked worked for Disney also.
Yeah.
Wow.
And that's his, like, he is a professional at public messaging, much more so than any of us in this call. And he decided in his brain that would be the way he wanted to brand himself, as a professional comedian, a guy who makes people laugh. And I don't think he was intending that we should laugh at him for being, deranged.
No, I don't think so. I mean, and comedy seems to be kind of another victim of this whole victimhood narrative.
Well, was it what he tweeted even funny?
Well, no, it was in response to Senator Lindsey Graham,
right,
who is one of the guys presiding over the Brent Kavanaugh circus, and Lindsey Graham had gone on a little bit of a rant, sort of venting, I think, the outrage that a lot of people are feeling at the mistreatment of Brent Kavanaugh and the political utilization of this accusation, using the accuser just as much as they're using Brent Kavanaugh. I mean, both of these people, both the accuser and the accused, are being mistreated by this public circus.
Yeah.
And Graham was basically giving voice to, I think, kind of a moral outrage and indignation at the pure indecency of it that Patton Oswalt was responding to. And I will say that Oswald wasn't a lone nutter, wasn't a lone crazy fat man.
Right.
He's a professional who knows his audience, so he was obviously pandering to something that has a large groundswell towards it. It wasn't just Patton Oswalt has finally gone off his meds and he's the angry fat man.
No, he wasn't just your typical overweight millennial educated in the modern post-secondary education system.
No, he's playing to the crowd. So that sentiment he was expressing, which to me looks deranged, is obviously a very popular sentiment.
It must. Well, God, you know what? I wonder if it is a popular sentiment or if these people are living in the illusion that it's the popular sentiment, because the media does give the illusion of mass consent when it's really not there. And we're going to definitely get into all of this tonight. We're going to really hash through it. And I want to start off, like I told you before, with some caveats that I have observed by the layman, like you and I. We're not the comedian. We're not the overprivileged judge who whipped his dick out at a party 35 years ago. We're the layman. And I want to go through a few statements that I've heard that kind of rang true to me that are a part of what we're talking about. And the first one is by actually a guest we've had before. I won't say his name now, but he was a guest before. And he said the fact that the hashtag MeToo has never gone after men of lower income, who you would think would have more of an incentive to rape, shows you their agenda.
Well, I'm not sure he's entirely correct. The media, the Me Too media phenomenon doesn't go after, low income guys just because nobody cares if a low income guy gets taken down. That doesn't titillate the masses. The media circus, and you see them going after high profile or celebrity figures. That's primarily not because they have an agenda against the successful. Is just that if you want to make a public splash, you go after somebody with a name,
right?
But I mean, working with Lighthouse, which we'll talk about in a little bit, I hope.
Yes, we will.
I see an awful lot of low income working class guys getting fiercely chewed up by this movement, although they just get accused and then they're destroyed in the social media circles as well as in the courts.
They don't get a hashtag, basically.
Yeah, there's no value in a hashtag for some local guy getting chewed up, because hashtag has to have an attraction to the global online audience.
Right.
Although they do get destroyed in like the Facebook and the Twitter circles.
Yeah.
But typically with hashtags or with tweets relating to whatever business they're in, whether it's a local band or a local business.
Yeah, and that's what I want. I want listeners to understand that the comment that I read that the hashtag MeToo is never gone after men of lower income. I mean, my response to that was, well, the hashtag MeToo movement existed before Twitter did, right? So if you want to identify it as the hashtag, then you have to understand that there is a sort of what do you call it? Not a hierarchy, but a caste system of men and their level of accusation and where it will take them. But
yeah, I mean, you're going to get more traction mentioning the name of the chairman of the International Monetary Fund than you are going after the guy who bags your groceries at Safeway.
Exactly. So I want the listeners to understand that, yes, when it comes to the hashtag movement, that's a caste of men that are elite men. And then the origins of it, and I think Lamprey was saying this before, he mentioned to me a few days ago, is like, let's go back to the origin of hashtag MeToo. And I'm talking just about the hashtag. And that was Harvey, was it not? Good old Harvey.
I think it was Harvey Weinstein, but there may have been accusations before that. There's Mayim Balak or something like this, who's an actress who was in a 1980s sitcom. And then there's Asia Argento and Rose McGowan. Those three are sort of the progenitors of the accusation movement that really came under the hashtag. But I've learned that prior to the sexual assault accusation hashtag use of the word MeToo, there was a social movement run by a woman whose name I don't know, which used the same term, which was more like people who felt that they have been victimized would kind of console one another by someone else chiming in and saying "Me too," and it wasn't, we're going to name somebody and destroy them. It was like you got, sexually harassed or hit on or assaulted or in some way. Well, yeah, that happened to me too, and let's all hang together so that you don't feel like you're the only one this has happened to, and that existed prior to the present incarnation, as far as I understand.
Yeah. So there's that and that goes back a couple years, as far as that movement kicking off and gaining ground. I'm going to go into the second caveat, and again, this is just from your layman, the people that are trying to fucking make sense of this bullshit. There was a tweet. Now I didn't save it, and Twitter kicked me off, blocked me. I'm not on Twitter anymore. They just said you're not allowed to be here anymore and fucking kicked me out. so I'm done on Twitter. Not by choice, they forced me out. But I do get tweets through people that I know outside of it. And there was this one tweet, and I'm not quoting it correctly. I'm doing it from memory, but it was close to this. It said, if you don't know a woman who has been sexually assaulted by a man, she does not trust you enough to tell you about it. Now, this is on the tail end of what's happening with Kavanaugh right now. And the message in that tweet is basically, every woman's been sexually assaulted. You don't know one that has, because she doesn't feel comfortable telling you about it. Right? And we have now, and I saw a woman commented on it and say, well, maybe she's just, maybe it was a horrible experience and it's not something you just fucking tell anybody. But,
well, you know what? Like, I'm going to probably make myself unpopular by saying this, but I'll start with men, right? I do not know a single man who hasn't been physically assaulted. Yeah. Robbed, beaten up, gotten into a punch-up. And I don't just mean schoolyard stuff. I mean, like, actual serious assault.
Yeah.
Every single man that I know has been seriously assaulted at least once. Guaranteed at least once. And that's borne out by the criminal victimization stats published by the FBI. Now, men and women suffer from different kinds of violence and personal difficulty just because we're not exactly all the same.
Right.
So I can accept the claim that, and I would probably say that it's not every single woman, but I'll bet it's close, has been, if not actually raped, then sexually interfered with or in some way assaulted or sexually harassed in some way in their life. I can accept that is probably a real thing.
Mhm.
And so I have to look at this Me Too movement and the previous victim movements before it. They do have a point. There is a point to be made that there is a problem of sexual violence or sexual entitlement, or maybe even just poor socialization resulting in the feelings of being sexually victimized.
Right.
And we could spend hours and hours and hours figuring that one out.
Right.
But the response to it, which is to say all male sexuality is toxic and all men are guilty, and every woman who points her finger, you must instantaneously believe her because she's a woman, because he's a man, therefore guilty. That is not viable. That is not a response that you can follow and still have a coherent civilization once you're done.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
Well, this just in, guys. Fox News is reporting Pepe Le Pew faces sexual harassment charges that go back to 1945. Pepe Le Pew, guys. Him too.
Pepe Le Pew too. Yep.
He's going down because he
45
loves.
is probably before 45.
This one's in 45.
Yeah, that sounds about right. That's like post-war cartoons, Warner Brothers.
Episode 10, Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
The cat
Pepe Le
that
Pew.
got a white paint stripe down its back, and Pepe couldn't contain his enthusiasm.
and the horrible part about being a cartoon is you're immortal.
Yeah.
So you could be 10,000 years old. Someone can accuse you of sexual assault from 10,000 years ago. Christ.
This is insanity.
Well,
Look, it's like the Monica Lewinsky. First, it was Monica Lewinsky, which is just blowjobs. Now we're talking. It's in the public arena, gangbangs, running the train on the bitch. Like this is fucked up. What we're facing right now, and as much as you want to turn off the news, turn off social media, turn off your phone, you can't get away with it. It's everywhere. It's omnipresent. It's wild,
yeah.
Yeah. And like I remember seeing, oops, I just pulled my earbuds out. I remember seeing Pepe, Le Pew cartoons when I was a kid, and I just thought they were the most entertaining thing I'd ever seen.
Yeah.
Because the cat trying to get away because Pepe stank, and
he's being a pseudo Romeo.
Yeah, he's trying to seduce. He's trying to seduce a cat
my
with
little
paint.
chicken, you are so delicious. I know you're playing hard to get. I see
But
you run,
you know it's crazy. That's French culture. All my friends from France act exactly like Pepe Le Pew.
Yeah.
Perhaps you can go for a gangbang. Nick, what do you think? Gangbang? I'm like, what? Are you crazy, man? I'm a nudge.
But you know what? Like, we are looking at that now with the morality of this modern Puritanism and going, "Oh my God, Pepe was how could they do that? Publish these cartoons?" And okay, fine. If you want to be extremely narrow in your view, you couldn't publish a Pepe Le Pew cartoon now anywhere except in a deep underground, comic publication online. But at the same time, let's go look at the Muppet Show. One of the characters of that show, who was given the title Woman of the Year by the feminist organization recently, which is
Miss Piggy?
Miss Piggy?
Miss Piggy, yeah.
Oh my God! Of course she's gonna be with the.
You gotta be kidding me! I didn't know that.
Miss Piggy, for very, very young children who are not familiar with the history of that show, Miss Piggy's signature move was when she was displeased by anything that her boyfriend / husband, whatever, Kermit, the little frog character, she would violently karate chop him.
Yeah, she
and
beat
throw
him.
and throw him across the room.
Yeah, I remember that.
And of course, we all looked at that and that was the funniest thing ever as well.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, so Pepe was sexually inappropriate and Miss Piggy was
abusive.
She was abusive, violent.
An extraordinarily violent, like not just little violence. She was probably double the size of Kermit.
Yeah.
And of course, remembering that these are not people; these are puppets.
Yeah.
But it would be portrayed that she would violently karate chop him for minor verbal infractions that he might make, like a verbal misunderstanding that he had suggested she was fat, or like,
yeah.
Didn't she used to throw Kermit across the room too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You would see her karate chopping him, and then the next camera shot would be the puppet with nobody's hand in it flying across the room and landing on the
That's right. I remember it now.
Yeah, man. And this is funny because you heard about the recent attack on Frank Oz, right?
Yeah, Bert and Ernie are apparently not gay, and that's simply unacceptable.
The creator.
This will not stand, my Mister.
I felt so bad. I was looking. The guy's in his mid to late 70s.
Yeah.
He's in his golden years.
Thank God he wasn't dead already. They'd have dug the corpse up and whipped it on the public square.
Yeah.
I know. This poor old man. He probably doesn't really understand Twitter. It's just this new thing, and he's 70 years old.
Some feminist fucking throws acid in his face.
Yeah, man. A bunch of people come on, and they're like, "Fuck you, Bert and Ernie are gay, you piece of shit." And it's just like, what the fuck?
It's like, yeah. So, and like, he didn't like say gay people are terrible or anything like that. He just said, no, this children's show couple, these two guys who are puppet roommates in a fantasy for a children's show.
Right.
No. They're just really good friends because.
So they don't like sodomy? Like, are you kidding me right now? Bigot.
They weren't fucking each other in the ass, you bigot. We knew it.
Yeah, and although to be totally honest, Ernie would have made a terrible roommate.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would not want to live with Ernie.
It was
Bert. I can't sleep. I brought a herd of sheep into our bedroom so that I can count them.
Yeah. But that's the genius of Frank Oz, man. I mean, all that shit we're laughing about with these cartoons and these Muppets, these are the genius of very incredible creative people. Men, let me say.
Bring it all down.
And Frank Oz was also Yoda, man. I mean, these people are... Henson's dead, thank God. He doesn't have to fucking live through this bullshit. But these are very incredibly creative men who have shaped culture with their creativity.
Yeah.
And they're getting torn down.
And like, aside from the attack on these guys, and let's deal with that a little bit, because it's against the Muppet creators and against Brent Kavanaugh, and I mean anybody who dares to even slightly disagree with the I guess the leftist mainstream doesn't just get told they're wrong. They get told that they are a horrible, degenerate, bigot, violent, woman-hating, misogynist, anti-gay, like everything you can think of gets heaped on them with this kind of joyful abandon. Like there's a certain joy coming from the accusatory crowd when they say that Frank Oz and sorry, what's the other one? Jim Henson. The accusation it's not just that we're very sorry and we're shaking our heads because he was such a bad guy. No, they're delighted to call him these things. They're really relishing the heaping of the most vile scorn that they can possibly come up with. And to me, this is this is actually more interesting because I don't understand it. It's a mystery. That
It's women. It's women in control. It's belligerent.
Power.
It's insane, and they're just laughing as they go along, and everyone else, flails their hands around like imbeciles.
Well, power is something that we, Lamprey and I, have discussed on this channel quite a bit when it comes to the sexualization of politics, and just the power that women naturally hold, know they hold, and once it's politicized, it goes out of control.
well, the feminist mindset, and I'm going to say it's more than just women, obviously, because you got guys like Patton Oswalt. Patton Oswalt is an intelligent and self-possessed enough guy, even though he's clearly off the deep end bonkers in his current tweet. He's not a stupid person in any traditional sense of the word stupid. Otherwise, he wouldn't be a successful comedian.
Right.
But he's buying into the feminist mythos, and I think the feminist mythos is not actually a political movement, although it manifests as that. It's a spiritual belief, and simplified, it goes something like this. The universe is balanced between male energy and female energy, and female energy is all the good stuff like compassion and caring for children and love and kindness and all the lovely, Mr. Rogers fuzzy warm stuff. And male energy, if there is such a thing, but in this mythology there is aggression and violence and intolerance and sexual predation and animal predation, like a crocodile eating a gazelle, is obviously in the universe manifesting male energy, and the opposite, two animals getting along, that's female energy. Now this is absurd,
Yeah.
and extraordinarily ridiculous and childish, but it's unstated, so it doesn't get examined critically. It's not like we pull this up and shine the light on it and go, oh, this is dopier than shit.
Right.
This is way deep down in the underlying belief structure of feminism, where it never actually gets examined or articulated verbally. It's buried underneath, and so this informs all the other politics and thought process. And this is why, for example, in the rhetoric about sex and drunkenness, a woman who is drunk is automatically the victim, because she's the manifestation of kindness and nurturingness and loveliness, and the male sexuality or the male energy is in this mythology the manifestation of predation and advantage taking and belligerence and blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
And nobody goes down and picks this apart verbally or intellectually. It's just kind of underneath there, informing the unexamined attitudes. And so I think of feminism as a much more of a spiritual belief system than I do a political ideology or movement.
Absolutely, man. It borders on the concept of what we call religion, and it's very frightening, very, very frightening. Just going back to when I mentioned that caveat of if we don't know a woman who's been sexually assaulted, she doesn't trust you enough to tell you. My response to that was, if you don't know a man who's been falsely accused of sexual assault, you're dead. I mean, you're dead, you're under 14, or you live under a rock, man.
I even though I deal with false accusations of sexual assault in a semi-professional capacity through Lighthouse, I would guess that probably not all men have been falsely accused of sexual assault. I think they've all been falsely accused of something,
Yeah, it's not a matter of, even in the original tweet, it's not a matter of, they give the impression that every woman has been sexually assaulted by a man, but they won't tell you, right? So the impression they're trying to give is that every woman has, right? You're a predator.
And you know what? There are women who have been sexually assaulted who, through the rhetoric of support groups and like-minded people, truly believe that there is no such thing as a woman who has not been raped. They actually
Yes.
truly believe that. And
Yes.
and I mean, like, not just, you got groped in grade 6 or something, but you actually got, violently raped.
Yeah.
And that when they discover that there are women who have not been, or, like, hey, have you been raped? When was your rape? I haven't been, or like, I haven't been raped.
When's your rape birthday?
Yeah, right. Like, when did you get your rape card or whatever it is?
Yeah, it's like they're mad that they're not virgins anymore or some shit. It's so crazy.
And somebody will answer, well, I haven't been raped. And they're gobsmacked by this. They're just, what? I didn't know there was such a thing.
Yeah. Well, this is one of the problems I want to interject here is one of the problems, and Lamprey and I have discussed this quite a bit on the channel in the past, and we will continue to do it, is the fact that when it came to politicizing sex, they had to redefine these words and these crimes.
The lexicon had to change.
The lexicon had to change. So when you say rape, often for a lot of women, that means he was an ugly guy that tried to hit on me. And
yeah, that's unfortunate. And the thing is, my usual response to that is a rhetorical one. It's like, listen, if you're not going to think rape is a serious crime, why should I?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Wonderful.
Why should I respond to the word rape or the accusation or the discussion of it in political affairs as if it's a very serious matter when you're going to say that it's so trivial that it's like a guy asking you for a date, or maybe let's go further. He put his hand on your thigh, or you were
he gave you a hug at work or some shit.
Yeah, or like you and his hand cupped your butt or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take it as far as you want. All this low-level stuff.
The crime is going to be the same. The crime is going to be the same. My great-grandfather used to say, if you're going to steal, the punishment's the same. So why not just rob a bank versus, stealing a candy bar? So if you're just going to, 15 seconds at staring at a woman is a sexual crime or sexual harassment, and the crime is like 5 or, let's say you do time because of it. Well, I might as well just rape her and kill her.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, yeah, I don't know about that because that response is like accepting that the only thing stopping you from committing a violent assault or a sexual assault is the penalty. I don't think I need to point out to anybody.
But if the penalty is going to be the same, is what I'm trying to get at. The point is, if you're going to serve time because you looked at a girl for 15 seconds, well, then I might as well just rape her because, again, the punishment is still the same. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, I got you there, but the problem is when you apply that to sexual assault, you're kind of carrying along an assumption that you want to sexually assault people, that's a thing that you want to engage in, and I think most guys are gonna object pretty strongly to that.
Yeah.
But the effect, there is a rhetorical effect in play, which is where in the political discussion of we use the word rape, and if we encompass in that term all the stuff that goes all the way from violent rape to clumsy flirting, then when you start talking about it using the word rape because it's that hot button word, people are going to start saying, oh, who cares? Because if most of what you're talking about is a clumsy flirtation, why should I care? And why should I take it seriously when you don't? And I think we're felt quite a long way along that path already.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. No, he's absolutely right, and I understand what Lamprey is getting at, and obviously for most people it's not going to be, well, shit. If I flirt with her in the office, and I can get fired and possibly go to prison, I might as well just meet her in the alley and rape the shit out of her. Most people are obviously not going to think that way, but it does lay credence to the reality that they've redefined the definitions of these crimes.
Well, me and Ayam discussed, in Indonesia and in Cambodia, rape is still rape.
Yes.
It's a serious, serious matter.
It's
real.
Yeah.
And the real rape is not rampant in North America. You know, so the women now don't know what rape actually
They
is.
don't even know what it is. It's almost like they want to be raped.
Right.
Because they don't have the experience.
They want a rape story, certainly, because especially in the universities, because having a rape story is a ticket to increased social standing in certain circles.
Right.
So and this is one of the things I've said repeatedly in my videos, particularly targeting young men in the university system, to understand, especially if you're a male feminist, that your utility to your circle of feminist friends may be that you're the prop in the story for her to increase her social status. So you get to go away and she gets a rape story.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter if you actually did anything. It doesn't matter if you ever even had some kind of a sexual encounter, or even had an encounter where there was the possibility of a sexual encounter, such as sharing a closed space, like going to somebody's apartment, or whatever other situation there that might have been a sexual encounter.
Right. No, we Lamper and I have discussed this, and this is a big thing that we have to keep in mind too, because I already mentioned how they're redefining it, and this is intentional. This is a political move, because it's a chessboard of power plays. Politicizing sex has put an incredible amount of power into the modern Western woman. And I remember listening to, and I don't know, a Lamprey might not like this, but I was listening to a Molyneux talk.
I was listening to it recently too.
I can hear him twitching in the background.
I was listening to a Molyneux talk the other day. I don't listen to him often, but every once in a while. And with the whole Kavanaugh thing, I've been...
Yeah, he's good at covering that stuff.
Yeah, and I'm trying to get the perspective, but one of the things he mentioned in the talk I heard him do, I think it's maybe a day or two old. It's quite new. I didn't save it, but he mentioned about this power play. The concept of Metoo, or the concept of a woman being allowed to falsely accuse a man, or just accuse a man. Let's not even say falsely. Let's just to accuse a man of something, again, by their new defined word of rape, right? All you got to do is whip your dick out at a party in 1982, and that's rape today. So just the accusation alone is a huge power play for women. An incredible power. And it's a power women have always had. Yet, now we're starting to legislate it.
Well, they've always had it, but it wasn't... it was like... It was something that you had this power to do, but you didn't use it, because it was always understood, I guess.
Well, there was repercussions.
It was the nuclear option, right?
Right.
Like it's. I'm not going to say that you were rude to me. I'm going to say you raped me. That's pushing the button. There's no going back from that.
Yeah.
So, even though that power has always been present, the strange phenomenon now is that there seems to be a kind of manic glee in everybody pushing the button.
Right.
And some of it is probably coming out of the feminist narrative, which never mind that it's not true, but let's just go. This is the narrative. We've all been steeped in this boiling hot tea of female victimhood, and so you're 18 or 20 years old and you're a college age woman. You don't know much of the world except for your parents' house and your high school, and then 1 or 2 years of college.
Right.
And you get told that the entire world is this incredible victimization cauldron for women of male predation and sexuality. And when you articulate your agreement with this, you get social praise from your peer group. And if you question it, people think they'll act like you're psychotic, or they'll say you've got internalized misogyny or whatever.
It's heresy. Yeah.
So you never mind that it's not observably true. You believe it because you're indoctrinated into it.
Yeah.
Well, then it's actually rational and positive within that ethic to push that nuclear button on as many guys as you can, because of course we live in this world where all male interactions are through the lens of male domination of women, and all male sexuality is actually it's not a penis, it's a barb with a poison stinger.
It's a pig's
like
penis. It's like curled.
It's like a giant, it's like a giant wasp stinger or something, right?
It's a narwhal penis, whatever the fuck
Yeah.
that is. You know, and I want to. I got one more caveat I want to mention before we really dive into the meat of today's politics and the Metoo concept. And again, this is coming from just regular people like you and me, and the things that they have to say about what they're witnessing. And it's difficult. You have to understand, it's really difficult for normal people to kind of process this shit, man. It's really, really difficult. But what I've found is that, you know, the average layman on the street, they're witty enough. They're not as witty as that stand-up comedian who went on
Patton Oswalt. Yeah.
that went on a fucking tirade. But this came up in my feed, and it does have to do with what we're talking about. It gets to that point. And I think it has a lot to do with how the history of this, not just the history of #MeToo, but the concept of false accusations, the power that women hold in that sense, and always have, without it being politicized or not. And there was this comment, and I like it because, again, people that I've had on the show before were responding to it. And the comment was originally done by a black woman. And it said, without blaming women, why are there so many why are there so many absent black fathers? That was the original comment, okay?
Right.
Now here's the response. These are all by black men. The first response is, that's like saying, without blaming the weekend, why are so many schools empty on Saturday and Sunday? and then the other, without blaming women, why are there so many absent black fathers? His response was, without using math, why is 1 + 1 2? and these are guys we've had on the show too, and that are responding to this. And my response to that was, hold on, I think I have exactly what I said here. Hold on. Without blaming, it was something, I don't have it right here, but it was without blaming slavery, why were so many black people lynched in the old days? And my response is, and I learned a little bit about this through the readings that Lamprecht and I have done over the last few months, is that back in the days when lynching a black man was popular in the United States of America, right, where that history, that's the only place that history exists, it's a large percentage of those men that were lynched, actually the majority of the lynched black males back then, were done so on the accusation of a woman.
Of particularly a white woman.
And it was particularly a white woman, and supported by white knights.
Yeah. Well, this gets back to I was talking about the glee with which these accused guys are pilloried in public media. This is a modern lynching. Now, we don't actually throw a rope around anybody and tie them to a tree and hang them, until they're dead.
Maybe we want to go back. Maybe they want to go back to that.
Oh, yeah, they do. I mean, there's a thing happening in Canada right now where a woman who, who killed a small child was transferred from a federal penitentiary to a native healing lodge, which is basically a spa. And there's a whole lot of... Yeah, no, it's like some sort of a native traditional healing lodge for people who've misbehaved or committed a crime.
Oh, okay.
And they go and they pray and sweat and do whatever else they do. I'm certainly not an expert, and I'm going to be called a racist for this.
No, I've done lots of sweats, man. They're wicked.
Yeah. And there's a lot of outrage on the political right in Canada about the Trudeau government's facilitation of this child murderer being transferred from a prison to a what people are thinking of as a spa, and the comments in the articles about this are like purely murderous. Like, release her into general population, we'll take care of her. Just let her go in the public. Where's the Sweat Lodge? Which city is it in? And people openly calling for this person to be killed. And this is you have the anonymizing effect of a comments thread, obviously, so people are not filtering things like they would if this was coming out of my face in a person-to-person meeting. But yeah, there's this kind of group mob mentality surrounding whenever we see somebody pilloried publicly.
Yeah.
And the reason we don't have public hangings anymore, the reason it's illegal, is we like it too much.
Yes, man, absolutely. I mean, that was the whole point of that message that I told you, and how I responded to it. It's like, this shit, and this is going back. This is segueing into what's happening today. Nothing has really changed, and that was sort of the end. That was my conclusion after listening to what these people had, not listening, but just seeing what people were saying, and sort of responding and trying to understand it myself and getting responses from them. Is like, nothing has really changed. They're still lynching men.
Yeah, they are. In a kind of an abstract way. Yes, they are. And part of the psychology of it, I think, and I don't know, this is only a theory, is that when you're in the angry mob, whether it's an actual angry mob in a city square, or whether it's the online mob that Kavanaugh is, list of profanities until we all get tired.
Yeah.
Is we're not looking at this guy which has a 30-year history of good behavior, and he's a very upstanding guy, and everybody seems to think he's a super great guy. We're just taking this one story element, and we don't actually care if it's true.
Yeah.
And in the retelling, it'll be amplified into something more absurd and fantastical than it actually is.
It'll be made into a movie and a play.
Yeah. Look, he didn't just rape her; he impaled her on a spike and paraded her blood spattered body around the walls of the city or some stupid thing. But when we go after this guy as the mob, we're all taking a kind of delight in, that's not me getting hung by the tree there, that's someone else, and I'm so relieved that the mob didn't turn on me, and I'm kind of in a state of ecstatic psychological state.
Yes.
Because you look at either an actual mob, like a group of Antifa dingbats, or the online mob all howling for blood because they're safely anonymous through the online system
because they can't afford pitchforks and torches.
Yeah, but they're going, look what's happening to this poor motherfucker. Thank God it's not me. And they're not rationalizing this in a logical, thought-out way, but I think there's some kind of like, it happened to him. Well, I'm going to make sure I'm on the side of the mob because
yes.
I want to ingratiate myself. I think there's something like that going on.
They want to be on the side of the mob without realizing that the tables can be turned so quickly.
That's right, and that's what the left does to each other. That's its biggest flaw when it comes to leftist politics, that it cannibalizes itself. The right doesn't seem to do that. The saying in America goes, the Republicans fall in line. And they fell behind Trump no matter what, They didn't, fracture the party like Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton did.
Well, I'm not sure that's strictly true. I think there's been a few attempts at palace coups inside the Trump administration.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but I think it's actually fair to say, though, that on the political right, or at least the ideological right, let's just call it that, because this goes beyond party politics, there is an ethic where people can clearly identify when you've gone too far. on the left, we're looking at these excesses of behavior that we look at and we go, well, these people are deranged.
They're fucking nuts.
What's got into the water? And there are other people in the political left who are, not nutty, but who aren't stepping up and saying, you there with the kill all white men, you better just sit down.
Yeah.
Nobody on the left is saying to the crazies, no, that's too much. Just close your mouth now. We've heard enough from you. Whereas on the right, if you go full Richard Spencer, people say, yeah, you're not coming to the club anymore, buddy.
Absolutely. But, everything that we've kind of been foreshadowing here and what we've been discussing, it really is leading into... There was a few points I really wanted to hit home to the listeners. And number one is that false accusations and what we're experiencing today is not new. Hashtag MeToo has a history, and there have been victims of the same concept before and after that existed. And it goes back quite far. And the fact that...
where did it come from? Where does it come from, AM? Where did Me Too originate from? And we tend to forget this across the board when it comes to MGTOW, the Fox News, anything that's kind of in our sphere of influence. Tend to forget the origins of Me Too.
Well, I think if it's the same as we discussed earlier, is that it started with a Jewish Hollywood producer who used his power and position to fuck women as they slept their way into power positions in Hollywood. And his name
movies.
Into movies. His name was Harvey, and he was a Weinstein. He was Jew. And suddenly Hollywood had a conscience and said, you know what? Maybe it was older Hollywood actresses that are like, geez, I fucked Harvey 20 years ago and I got this job and it's earned me, $300 million and I'm living in Beverly Hills and everything's fine, but now I'm old and worn out. It's time to fucking pay the piper, Harvey.
I think it's just mostly a bit of political theater, because, we know.
No, but where did it come from, John? Where did Me Too originate from? It comes out of Hollywood, and it was a deflection off what's really going on behind the scenes in Hollywood.
I think it's deeper than that, actually. I think the Hollywood manifestation of it, because Me Too is very much a Hollywood hashtag. It's yes. They're targeting the famous, right?
Right.
And maybe not entertainment people, maybe like bankers, where they went after what's his name, Dominique Strauss-Kahn. That was a purely political setup. But Harvey wasn't just a guy who used his advantage, used his power as a sexual predator. He was a guy who had women literally offering themselves to him for sex.
Yes.
Like, get me in a movie and I'm all yours, baby.
He was the Solomon of California.
Yeah.
He was the Solomon of California.
And that happens at the Harvey Weinstein level, and it happens at the indie film level, and it happens at the student film level. There is a commerce of sex for access in Hollywood and everywhere else.
Everywhere in the world.
This is why you get a really nice car and a nice suit and a nice gold watch and drive down Robson Street on a Saturday night, and good chances are you'll end up with a girl in your car who doesn't know even your first name, but you've got a shiny watch and a shiny... Yeah. She's attracted to the status and the power. And, it turns out that the car's rented and you're $500,000 in debt. Well, she's going to be out the door faster than a very fast thing.
Yeah. But it's also the appearance, though. Even if a woman... This is a part of a woman's personality that people tend to forget about. Even if she looks at a piece of paper that says you're in debt and it's rented, there is the illusion that she's driving around in a fucking Linda's,
her status is raised
yes,
by
her status is
by
raised.
attaching, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not saying this like, and I'm with some scolding tone. I'm not making a moral judgment here. Like this is a reproductive strategy that comes from something deeper than the rational brain. So don't let anybody think that I'm saying, oh, these women are nothing but gold diggers or anything. No, I don't think that at all. But it is a part of human sexual behavior that women mate economically and socially upwards, and they use sex as a commodity.
Yes.
And you could be very reductionist and say, oh, all women are whores, but it's not what I'm saying.
Right.
It's just that this is an uncomfortable truth that we are not willing to discuss on the 6 o'clock news, and so we have Me Too, because when someone's Asia Argento used her sexual value to gain access to being in movies, well, that's you cannot possibly say such a terrible thing, because we look at that as if it's terrible when it's actually just that's how humans get along with each other.
Yeah, but it shows the immaturity of North American sexual culture at the same time. Mentioned before about Pepe Le Pew. My friends from Europe were much more sexually mature than the average American. I mean, if you look at teen comedy, sex comedies, it's like he's jerking off, like it's American Pie, movies like that.
Yeah.
It plays right into the immaturity.
The astonishing popularity of that, and the whatever the actress was who gets her hair stuck up in the, like she's got cum in her hair or something.
Cameron Diaz.
Right. And it's just like the funniest thing ever.
Yeah.
And if I don't, I have not European but Quebec French who do not suffer from the puritanical mental disease, and they look at that movie and they're like, this is just stupid.
Yeah.
Why is this funny? Like, why would a pie?
But
that was a good pie.
Yeah, he's fucking a pie.
That was a perfectly good pie. And you just, what's wrong with you? Doesn't your hand work?
Yeah.
Like,
well, getting on with the topics, I think we've segued quite nicely, especially in how I represented the fact that the Me Too movement, the hashtag Me Too movement is not, it's new but it's old, right? It's rebranded. It's rebranded gynocentric power, okay? And again, this is not, God, I'm preaching to the choir, so you guys, everybody.
Well, I have a theory. I have a theory here about what this is, what we're seeing. Like this is the tip of an iceberg of something deeper and bigger than what we can see on the surface. Mm-hmm. And I think it's the experiment, the Western world's experiment with a sexually egalitarian culture, which began in, I guess, the 1930s, really began more heavily after the Second World War in the 1940s, and kind of went into overdrive in the 1960s with the sexual revolution. Yep. We have this in terms of the history of humanity, extremely new experiment where men and women's roles in society are, if not exactly equal, then largely equal. We each go to work. We each bear the same more or less responsibilities financially. We're each, up to our neck in debt and working 60-hour weeks.
Right.
And so this men and women working in the same workforce with each other is very, very new in society, and looking at each other as if we're social and legal equals. And I don't mean not men over women or women over men. We just occupy different parts of life. We had domain over different parts of life, and we've just pushed that all into one big mess.
Sexually is the difference that you really realistically, sexually is the biggest difference where men and women come to loggerheads, and that's a part of life.
And we have this world where in the workforce and in your casual life and everywhere else, everybody has equal access, more or less, and that's very, very new in terms of the history of human culture. And it may be that the experiment is failing, it may be that it isn't working, and we haven't been able to figure out how to do it without it. This could all straighten itself out, or it could also go right to the bottom of the Marianas Trench.
Well, John, what's funny though is that if women occupy the same spaces as men, women start acting more like men, and which is kind of a little bit of more scary and more frightening aspect of this is it makes them become more psychopathic, more business oriented, more capitalistic. Right, so one is not born a woman, but becomes a woman. Well, these women are now being born and raised to compete with men, and that happened to the millennial generation.
That's right.
Now, I was listening to Camille Paglia talking about her days in college, and that was in the 1960s, and she was talking about how they really struggled against the university administration to be allowed to live in mixed sex dorms, to be allowed to go out without sort of a chaperone, to be allowed to assume the risk of an adult,
the opposite of Saudi Arabia, basically.
Yeah, because prior to that, there had been sort of this paternal protection of women that, you can look at it as being suppressed because you can't go out alone, but you can also understand that it comes out of this social and cultural desire to protect women from victimization, whether it's getting robbed or getting raped. And Paglia was saying that during her, coming of age in her own college years, there was this real protracted and intense struggle by the feminists of the time to be allowed to say, I am a completely adult person and I want to be able to assume the risk of an adult, to engage sexually, to drink alcohol, to go out at night and all this other stuff.
Take my clothes off.
Or not, right?
Or not, yeah.
Yeah, to be an autonomous person in the same way that a man is in public spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And now what we have is that autonomy has been granted, but the MeToo movement seems to be kind of in this weird crabwise fashion saying, I want all this autonomy, but I also want
no responsibility,
none of the responsibility that goes with it. And it's like it's a real disconnect.
It's sly, it's slick.
The problem is it's not viable. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. It's snake oil,
so,
man.
Yeah. So you have a dysfunctional society where everybody is at odds with each other, and if we're not going to devolve into actual open warfare between men and women, which I really hope we don't, I kind of think we're going to have to go back to a segregated society. Not in the sense of Saudi Arabia and women can't drive cars, but in the sense that men and women are
That's
not...
That's called the patriarchy, man.
Well...
That's the real definition of it. It's not...
Yeah, I understand, but at least it's functional.
It does function. I mean, that's why feminism makes patriarchy its number one enemy. It is the focal point of everything that is evil is patriarchy, because patriarchy actually keeps society functioning at a rational and very even level.
Yeah.
It always has. The meaning of the word was the patriarch was the head of the family, was a male, right? And that translated throughout society. And we can, it still exists. You can go to the Middle East, spend 2 to 3 weeks in Saudi Arabia.
Oh, you can go to farming communities, and that's what you get.
Exactly.
What we are seeing, this out of control, liberated, pathological victim culture. I'm just throwing words together here. It's not like I have a proper name for it.
Yeah.
Exists almost exclusively in major cities and in the entertainment industry and in the college and the university level, which spills over into government.
Jewish industries.
But that's all like a sliver of the larger society. So I kind of think we're going to have to. We can't keep sliding into chaos.
Nah,
because
the wheels gotta fall off economically before you see any major change, or you get invaded by a foreign enemy, or like I said, war breaks
Quietly.
out. That's the only way. It's just you're just it's insidious. It's so insidious. It's just creeping up on you, and the wheels will fall off. Hopefully economically, which is what I think will happen first before World War III breaks out.
Well, let me go into the chats first, and then I want to bring John up on what Lamprey and I discussed about people still talking about your name. Might as well bring that up to the
Sure.
to the listeners. But I'll go through some of the chats. JWG, I don't think he's here anymore because he's not talking. Now, Carl Wasserman MGTOW says Michelle Obama, because we were talking about that earlier, and it is if you look, John, it is the backdrop of our show. It's a picture of Michelle Obama holding up a sign that says, Brent Kavanaugh touched my penis. So,
if only we could all be so lucky.
So Carl Wasserman says, Michelle is a man. And then we'll skip down. Michelle Obama, First Lady of the United States, was born Michael LaVaughn Robinson in Chicago, Illinois on January 17th, 1964. Then he says he was the second son born to Fraser Robinson III, a well-known cocaine dealer and Union thug for crime lord Mayor Richard J. Daley, and Marianne Shields Robinson, a transient street prostitute who was diagnosed with the HIV virus in 1998. He was a popular high school athlete, and in 1982 he accepted a scholarship to play middle linebacker for the Oregon State Beavers. Now I wanted to get that in because I want to get my listeners, I want to get their comments in. I don't understand it, man. Maybe Michelle Obama is a man. I don't know.
Yeah, I find this all a little, loopy, to be honest.
Yeah, sure. It's loopy.
I mean, it's fun, but who really thinks? I mean, for starters, she's got 2 daughters. Where did they come from?
God, who knows?
Right?
I mean,
They look nothing like the either. Of them.
they don't like they don't look like
They
their
really look
parents.
nothing.
I know,
Nothing like
man.
their parents.
I know, but this ties in. I mean, this comment from one of my subscribers who just wanted to get his perspective out based on what was pushed up in the video.
My father swears it's a man.
Well, this is the thing when we talk about Metoo and we talk about Kavanaugh and we talk about Cosby, and I want to get into that. I want to get Kavanaugh and Cosby, and I want to get into what's his name again, John? God damn it, the Canadian Gian
Ghomeshi, yeah.
Gian Ghomeshi. I want to get into this stuff, and the thing is that we know very little about these Canadian. We know very little about these people besides what we're told, right? And
right.
So that's what I want to bring out about this guy's comments. It's like, yeah, okay, but we know very little about who these people are, and often maybe this entire thing is just a goddamn distraction, and that's
I don't think it's a distraction so much as it's a political power move,
right?
And it's not a rational power move. It's not like there's a committee of people who twirled their mustache, or her mustache or whatever. But
Michelle Obama twirls his mustache.
Michelle strokes his beard. It's the most interesting. Yeah, let's not go too far down that rabbit hole.
What else is going on that we're being blindsided about? We had the Israel shot down and killed 13 Russian military personnel. That was recent, I think, a week and a half ago. That's one news. And a little bit of a side note: housing prices came crashing down by at least 5% this past week in the real estate market in New York.
Well, that's actually good.
Yes, it is good.
I would hope that they would crash down a little in my city as well, because
absolutely.
Oh,
where are you,
boy.
in Vancouver?
Yeah,
yeah. I mean,
yeah, Vancouver's bad.
Let's divert a little here. There is a money laundering model called the Vancouver model. It's an internationally known model for large-scale criminal organizations to launder money through casinos. They bring foreign, criminally produced either drug or other criminal activities into the country, in this case Canada, through casinos. So people will walk into casinos with like duffel bags filled with cash, and they lose a whole bunch of that in the casino, and then they win a whole bunch, and then they walk back out, and that's the first step of cleaning your money.
That's laundering.
Well, it's Chinese and Russians, I'm going to safely assume, correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of South Asian stuff, and there's some Chinese, not so much Russians. It's mostly Asians, but I don't want to get too racist about it. That's just what I've seen happen.
Nah, man, you're a racist.
No, it's happening. Listen, it's happening in every mega city. What you're talking about right now.
Although it was invented and sharpened as a knife in my city, I'm very proud to say, because we have the most compliant and morally incompetent provincial government in Canada, which has just completely facilitated this happening. And then they take that money, which is its first stepped cleaned through the casino, and they pass it through real estate transactions, and they hold these houses off market as just a capital holding. And then what that does is it drives the property prices up, because Vancouver, although it's a relatively unremarkable city, is in a very liberal democracy of Canada, very kind of free and easy country, and
it's
our
the San
climate,
Francisco of Canada.
It really is, and our climate is also extremely pleasant, given that we're Canada, the Great White North. It almost never snows here. It's very mild. We have mild summers. We have mild winters. There's the ocean. There's the mountains. Like, this is a destination real estate purchase.
It's
for
better
the rich
than
people.
Toronto.
Yeah, if you are a very, very rich person from anywhere else in the world, whether it's Germany or Saudi Arabia or China, Vancouver, not just Canada, but Vancouver is one of the places that you want to buy a house and send your kids there, because your kids will have a really nice, pleasant life away from South Africa or Russia or wherever it is you're from. And so this money laundering and being this target real estate purchase for the extremely rich has pushed our property prices beyond the reach of a normal mortal human who actually has a well-paying job.
Yeah, the normal Vancouver guy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, it's also very safe. I mean, where's it going to more likely be a civil uprising and the government, nationalizes property? Is South Africa or Canada?
Yeah.
Not here.
So,
not here.
Yeah.
Everybody's too busy drinking their lattes and going
The pumpkin
snowboarding,
spice lattes now.
Bragging about how much their house is worth.
And the consequence is that people with not just like shit jobs, but decent paying jobs are living in tents in the parks of the city. I ride
It's like San Francisco.
Yeah.
Same.
These are not like the conventional mental illness homeless who can't hold down a job. These are guys who work $18, $19, $22 an hour jobs, living in tents because they can't afford anything else.
Wow.
Yep.
Hey, guys.
It's happening globally.
Guys,
New Zealand just passed the law. New Zealand just passed the law that no foreigner is allowed to buy any real estate in their country.
Hey guys, I gotta take a piss. Keep talking. I'll be right back in 2 minutes.
Well, it's cool that you know that, John, because I know a lot about what's happened as far as real estate development goes in North America, and it's scary, guys. I'm serious. Single moms really are a big burden when it comes to real estate prices, also.
Well, I'm interested to hear about this little conclave of people who were seemingly quite excited and angry at me that you were telling me about before we went live.
Yeah, it was a feminist channel called Men Are the Problem, and they did this live stream. They did this. Yeah, I know. I just trolled them as much as I can. But it was like a 2.5 hour live stream, and at least a good 45 minutes to an hour was dedicated to just ripping on you, John. And
that makes me so happy.
I know, it's pretty wild. And they were talking about something that happened like 3 or 4 years ago, and it was really intriguing listening to them. Very belligerent. It's like saying, well, why do you hate John? Well, he's a man. Okay, but what else? I don't know. That's basically what it came down to. So,
Yeah.
I mean, speaking to you, we did. The only time we ever spoke to each other was the previous live stream. So, and I watched a few of your YouTube channels, and I'm subscribed to you. But it was really fun listening to them go on and on and on about you. And I want to know, what did you do to diss these feminists so much?
Well, I mean, I can only guess, unless you can mention what in particular they were so exercised about.
It's something about you being doxxed. That's what they were really talking.
Yeah, that's really old news. And basically, I got doxxed like so long ago that I don't even think it matters. But it wasn't by a bunch of female feminists. It was by a male feminist professor of biology named P.Z. Myers, I think, is his first initials. And he used to fairly regularly mention me, and he would mention my full name, rather, because I used to just be John the Other, and everybody kind of knows my actual name is John Hembling now, and so I've been doxxed, and I'm completely not worried about it. I live in East Vancouver, 1421 East 2nd Avenue. Anybody got a pen? Write this down. Come and get me at any time. But Myers thought that he would really stick it to me by publishing my name, and I don't think he had my home address, but I probably gave it to him. And so I used to regularly then do videos challenging him to debate me, and I kept extending the time that he would have. Like, I gave him 30 days, and then I gave him 90 days, and then I gave him a year, and then I gave him 2 years. So it just became kind of a running joke that, if you can't fight, wear a big hat.
Hello?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Oh, yeah, go on. So we lost you there for a second, John.
Oh, sorry about that.
All right, he's wearing a big hat. Go on.
Yeah, well, Myers just seemed to take a lot of delight in trying to, I don't know, I never really understood what he was trying to do, because I was perfectly willing to debate him at any time, and he just didn't want to. And so, it just became he had his big platform.
Like, they have no ammo. That's the other thing with feminists. What ammo do you have besides the thing between your legs? What else do you fucking got?
Yeah.
Well, they got the rape card.
You won't. They got the rape card. So you're not willing to take this onto a public, in the public arena and debate this. We're just gonna throw it again. We're gonna act like it's peanuts and circuses, and be immature about it.
And the public arena is very confident and satisfied with the fact that a woman has been violated. And that's it. That's the public arena. It's Christ. This is another thing I wanted to bring up, and is the fact that when I originally talked about how a person mentioned they only go after the rich guys, and my response was, well, actually they don't. Only if it has a hashtag behind it, yes they do, and we understand why. But since I've been back in Canada, I've only been back 2 years. I've already heard 2 stories of men that I don't know personally, but I hear it through a person and a person that have been accused of rape or sexual abuse.
It is a completely runaway problem.
Yes. And hold on a second, John. One of the stories I heard was from my own mother, who told me about a guy that lived in the same small town I grew up in, who got accused of rape from a girl that happened fucking 20 years in the past. Right? And I'm going, what the fuck? This is Me Too for the little guy.
Yeah. Well, you can't defend against a 20-year-old accusation, right?
Exactly.
Like, there's how can you defend it? You don't have any physical evidence. You don't have any straight memories. Like, I don't have clear memories of what happened 20 years ago.
20 years ago? Well, in Kavanaugh's case, 35? Like, what the fuck did I do 35 years ago?
I can tell you vaguely what I was doing 20 years ago, but I don't have any, like, the human memory is not a precise recording device. It's highly efficient. So if there's a real big incident, like I ran from a tiger or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'll remember that. but I'm not going to remember. Okay, I had a job working for this one restaurant, and I think I also used to cut trees down for a landscaping company. I don't remember if I did one job then the other, or if I did them. I don't remember. Like
The two of them are like 60 fucking years old. They're the same age as my father, for fuck's sakes. I asked my dad, what was it like in New York City in 1983? Oh, it was terrible. I go, what was terrible? I don't remember.
It's a feeling.
I had this conversation with him recently. I go, tell me, what was the street like? You know, was there crackheads everywhere and stuff? Oh, it was terrible. There's black people everywhere. That's it.
Yeah, it's a feeling, man. When you go back to memories that far back, it really is a feeling. Like you and I and all of us listening now, we can go back. We can try to take a trip down memory lane for 20. Let's go back 20 years. If you're 20 years old, or at least 25 years old. Let's go back down a trip of 20 years. You can go and you can remember the date. You can go, okay, 1990 something. Where was I?
Right.
Okay, I was there. How did I feel? The first thing you remember is how you felt. It's like, that wasn't such a good time.
So true, man.
Yeah, and if you can actually come up with details, what you're doing is creating them on the fly, not pulling them out of the archives.
Yeah, you're not pulling it out of your memory. I mean, I can go back 20 years and go, where was I 20 years ago? And it takes a few seconds. You got to think about it. Like 20 years ago, oh yeah, I was living here. That's right. What the fuck was I doing? Oh yeah, I had this job. And then, how did you feel at that time? Because the memory of that moment comes back as feelings first. And you think, oh yeah, I felt like shit at that time. Like, what was I doing? And then maybe, I don't know, maybe you were unemployed. Maybe you had a relationship problem.
Songs, music usually puts me back into the moment. That's the best way of unlocking archives, is what songs you were listening to at that time.
Music and smells. They bring you back always. You know, but really, we're going to accept the fact that these just abstract concepts are allowed to be an accusation without evidence to persecute a man? Really? How did we get there? I mean, and that's the whole point. And I think, John, you brought it up in your last video about Ghomeshi.
Yeah.
You brought that up in Ghomeshi, and I want the listener to understand that everything we're talking about, yes, it's Me Too, but Ghomeshi was pre-Me Too.
Yeah, he was. And he wrote this article, which was really the first thing that he'd actually said in the last 4 years. And he was requested to write an article for the New York Review of Books. And
that's
in it,
good for him, man. Good for him.
Yeah. In it, I mean, it was like, I know a little bit more about him just because of sort of my involvement
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. With, Lighthouse, we pay attention to this stuff, particularly in Canada. For anybody who doesn't know, Lighthouse is a non-profit organization started by Diana Davison and myself, and we try to advocate for people who are falsely accused. We handle a lot of individual cases, and we are like really, really swamped with cases. Like, when you start paying attention, this is a complete runaway epidemic. But Ghomeshi,
hold on a second, John. And for the listeners, before this show is done, John will give me a link to Lighthouse, and I will put it in the show notes. Okay, so you guys can go check it out.
Yeah, okay. Thanks.
Keep going.
Ghomeshi is actually a kind of a rare person in that he's one of these guys who keeps all his records. And so he was the host of a radio show in Canada for the CBC, and it was a very, very popular show. He was a progressive leftist, social justice-y kind of guy, but he kind of like a mellow personality. He wasn't like a firebrand who just decried all men. He was just sympathetic to the feminist cause, and he had this, smooth way of talking that everybody seemed to like. He had a history as a musician, so he was in a band called Moxie Fruboss. He parlayed that small amount of fame into having a show on the CBC, and he was, by all accurate accounts, a bit of a fussy perfectionist to work with, which is understandable when you are sort of a creative driver of, you know, a musical career and then a talk show career.
Celebrity.
So
he was a celebrity.
yeah, but like he produced the show. The show was this thing that he had created, and so he was driven and very fussy about the standards that he required from everybody around him, and not necessarily the nicest guy to try to work with. Now,
Yeah.
I don't want to vilify the guy because he's been through a horrible couple of years, but you know, let's be real. The guy was not the perfect angel to to work with. He was very, very demanding and sometimes not very understanding of other people's limitations. But what he was not was a predator.
Yeah.
And so he was this high status, famous, popular guy on Canada's probably most listened to entertainment show.
And what was
Like,
his background? What he wasn't a
he
white
was
guy.
he was an Iranian Canadian, but I mean, like,
There you go.
born in Canada. He wasn't an immigrant. He just
No,
was like a
but
brown
he,
guy.
He was
right?
not a fucking white guy. He was,
He was a brown guy.
He wasn't the quintessential white guy rapist. Let's just put it that way.
So he's a brown guy who born and grew up in Toronto. So he's Canadian, even though he's Iranian. But like, you know, he's not off the boat or anything.
Yeah.
And he had this high status, and he's charismatic, and he's good looking, and he's musical, and he's witty, and so everybody loves him, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he had a number of different women who were all kind of trying to get with him, that he did not want to get with. And there was a bit of, you take that little bit of spurned woman syndrome, plus the professional jealousy of his success, plus the fact that he's a bit prickly to work with, and you have almost a perfect storm where there's no brakes on an accusation, and a group
He's a
of
celebrity.
people.
The perfect storm. Everything you described is like, this is a man who was basically a celebrity.
Yeah, but also let's add in, like, let's give credit where it's due. He was a bit of a bastard. Now, he wasn't like beating people up, but he was just a little tough to work with. That's what I'm going to say, and that's accurate.
And I think that comes along with the concept of being a celebrity.
Yeah,
I saw his videos. He seemed like a dick.
Yeah, you say that comes along with being a celebrity, but I'll give Clint Eastwood as an example that that's not necessarily the case.
Okay.
Because Clint Eastwood is now a director, and he is apparently one of the most easy people in the entire world to work with. He just goes, okay, just do your thing whenever you feel like it.
Right.
Like, he's very, very low interference in the way that he works with people.
Okay.
So I'm not going to just agree that only being a celebrity is all you need.
Okay.
But there was an element of professional jealousy because he was very successful, and there were other less successful people in entertainment and broadcasting who greatly resented him, and one of them organized a group of these resentful women, literally colluded and conspired to fabricate a series of accusations against him. The accusations against Ghomeshi, which number, I think, 24 or 23 or something like that, only 3 of them were even valid enough for the Crown Prosecution Service to take to trial. Out of 23, only 3 met the test of, can we even bring this person into the courtroom without looking like we are morons? And those 3 that they brought in, the 3 best, fell completely apart under cross-examination when it was revealed that they had been collaborating and colluding with one another and had agreed on fabricating the accusations.
Wow.
The most
Unbelievable.
Wow.
The most famous of those 3 was a woman named Lucy Ducater, who was one of the actresses on a show called The Trailer Park Boys. Lucy got all these interviews leading up to and during the trial, and in one of them, or in several of them, she said that her performance in the courtroom she viewed as just another role. She was made for this. It was the ultimate theater. She viewed the courtroom as the ultimate form of theater.
Unbelievable.
So, and this is a guy who is in, his name is now in media at
His name
least
is
synonymous with, yeah. And so 4 years go by, he's acquitted miraculously because he kept all his text messages and all his emails and all his letters. So he said, look, here's all this information showing that the story being told, you're being told this little sliver. Here it is in the context of all our communications. This person is a fraud. I'm being falsely accused. He had a very excellent lawyer named Marie Hennon who did a fantastic job. So he's acquitted. But the media won't accept that. They want to hang somebody, and by golly, Gomeshi's the one. And so Gomeshi lives.
He's pre-MeToo, man.
He's pre-MeToo, yeah. And in his article, he says he's a friend of his had pointed out that he was the pioneer. Now he's getting piled on in the media now after writing that article for New York Review of Books because he's trying to co-opt MGTOW by claiming he's the pioneer. Well, that's actually wrong.
Give me a fucking break. Are you serious?
Yeah, there's nothing. He can't do anything that they won't pile on. And
wow.
The New York Review of Books article has subsequently had this big preamble added to it by the editorial board where they denounce him and they say he's a terrible blah, 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 right? Oh, we were totally wrong, but we're not going to take this down. So they've bowed to the pressure. Their editor, who actually did the interview with him and solicited the article, he's more or less been ejected from his role as the editor of New York Review of Books, which is also shameful.
Unbelievable.
And Gomeshi's claim of being a, quote, pioneer of MGTOW is actually Gomeshi quoting a female friend of his who said this to him. And he's relaying the conversation, not laying claim to it himself.
Yeah, he's quoting a quote from someone else.
Yeah. Yeah. And
unbelievable, man.
And I encourage people to find the New York Review of Books article that he wrote. It's the first thing that he said.
I'm going to post it up.
It's the first thing he said in 4 years. He's been silent and in exile for 4 years, more or less living in a state of trauma. And he writes this article, which I will say is meek. It is a meek and quiet little article. And look at the rage that gets piled on him. So there is a deep pathology at play here in the public piling on this guy.
Well, look, I put the article up in the chats. So everybody listening, we've got 25 watching. Look at that article and read it. It's not a long read, but you'll see where this is coming from. And you'll see the history. And remember, this man was a brown Canadian man that in 2014 became the pioneer of hashtag MeToo. Long before it happened.
He was patient zero of the falsely accused.
He was patient zero of the falsely accused. And when we say that, we're talking about celebrities. We're talking about people, men with power, with political or media power. He was patient zero. Watch it. Go back, read that article, man. I want to go back. I want to read some of that to the listeners. Do you mind, John?
Go for it by all means.
Okay, so all right, I'm gonna start here. Okay, when the scandal broke, dozens of female friends, some of whom I'd previously dated, reached out in support to say they would speak on behalf of my character. Again, remember, this is a weak testament to what actually happened. As the storm grew, many backed away, too scared or conflicted or shocked at the headlines to take a public stand. Several friendly artists and celebrities wrote to say they would need to stay silent because it might affect their careers. I was grateful for their candor. Many others, even though I thought to be close friends, simply have not spoken to me since.
Wow.
This is a man.
Someone has some major control. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. It's so powerful that the media is so vitriol to do this to one man that everyone cowers at this, crazy.
It's incredible. I mean, if you go back to the beginning of the article, he does talk about how he's trying to be a normal person, and then someone actually acknowledges him as a normal person.
But you know what the bigger
remarkable
difference is?
moment for him. Yeah.
It was a remarkable moment for him.
The bigger difference is though, this is not political. This individual. What we're talking about is a Supreme Court nominee, for fuck's sakes, and the opposition, the Democrats, are panicking because Ruth Ginsburg, is it?
Yeah.
Again, feminist. She's gonna pass away if Trump stays in office another 6 years or so. I mean, so they're panicking that Trump is gonna have 3 Supreme Court nominees. He put 3 Supreme Court judges in. So I mean, what happened with this guy in Canada? It's a little bit different. We're talking about the government of the United States versus some guy in
he was a canary in Canada. He was a canary in the coal mine. That's what we're saying.
Absolutely.
Now, as much as we call him Patient Zero, I mean, he's kind of the first, maybe one of the first celebrity targets. Julian Assange was also a victim of Metoo, as was Dominique Strauss-Kahn. I mean, Julian Assange's his exile is because he revealed U.S. government stuff, but the mechanism of his becoming a fugitive, becoming an exile, is that he was set up by a couple of feminists in Sweden.
Right.
And that's where it becomes global politics. I mean, that's when we begin to say, wait a second, this isn't something that Canadians are suffering, Americans are suffering. Wait, it's in Sweden? It's in Australia?
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
yep.
There's an agenda here that really has to be understood, I think, by anybody listening right now. It's an agenda. It's not an accident. And if we go from Gian, let's call Gian Patient Zero, as far as the hashtag MGTOW movement went. But let's go back to how I spoke about the idea that blacks were lynched. Most blacks were lynched by white women saying they were touched by them.
Or even just approached by them, like just flirted with.
Anything, because that's ultimate gynocentric power. I mean, hey, look, this black guy, because we're living in a society where blacks and whites are not equal. Well, as a woman, I can want to suck his huge black cock, but if I do it, I can get him fucking hung. Can you imagine that power?
No evidence. Kill him.
Yeah, zero evidence. It's incredible, the power that they have. The absolute power that they have. And I want to segue into Bill Cosby, as we're talking about this. Bill Cosby.
Now I'm gonna give a caveat here that I don't actually know much about the Cosby case, because I've been head down in a bunch of other stuff.
It's worse than the Kavanaugh case.
Well, let's
a basketball lesbian got this guy thrown in jail.
Oh,
it's horrible, man. And I want to say this. Okay, look, we're talking about Kavanaugh. Okay, let's go to Kavanaugh now. This is a 35-year-old case where a man apparently whipped his dick out at a party, and suddenly that became a gangbang.
I think it was a little more than whipped his dick out. I think, based on what I've read about the Kavanaugh case, is he allegedly trapped a woman in a room and attempted to force a sexual encounter, and she managed to either rush past him or shove him off or whatever the case might have been, and so the sexual part of that didn't happen, but it was an attempt at a forced sexual encounter.
He tried hooking up with her.
That's the story, right? And the thing about the Kavanaugh case, and I kind of mentioned this before we went live, I'll say it again just for everybody else, is I actually accept that might have happened. That might actually be the true story. Remembering that he's, 15 at the time, she's 19, and he's an extremely privileged, rich white kid going to a privileged, rich white kid school. Right? So let's accept that version of the story is, in her recollection, true, and maybe she's fuzzed some of the details and it doesn't much matter because it's 35 years ago.
Wrong. You're making it sound like he done something wrong, that he tried, getting his nut off at 15 years old.
Well, yeah, apparently there was a little bit of force used and they locked her in a room and some other bad business like that, right?
But even then, go back to when you're 15. Let's say you're drunk, you're smoking a joint, there's a bunch of chicks, and they're there, and everybody's having a good time. And what are you doing wrong? Like, seriously.
For fuck's sake.
If God himself was watching...
Well, hang on, you guys. Just hold it. What you're doing wrong is using force to confine somebody in a room and try to force a sexual encounter, right? That's what you're doing wrong. And I don't think we need to debate about whether that's bad behavior. Okay, I'm going to... just because it's 35 years ago and it's like in the fuzzy mists of time... For the sake of argument, I'm going to accept that that's real. But even doing so, you look at Kavanaugh has a 30-year history working in the court system as a law clerk, as an intern, as a lawyer, and as a judge. And his history of working with men and women shows us that he has a good character. So if he was a jackass at age 15, I don't care. And even the woman who he apparently did this to, let's assume that her memory of this is extremely traumatic and it has haunted her for her whole life. Let's just accept that as true. This is still a disgusting and ridiculous fiasco to bring it into the play of his nomination as the Supreme Court Justice. She couldn't find her voice when he was nominated as just a regular judge or passed the bar exam or had held any other office. It's only now that it comes forward that this is why this is a ridiculous and absurd parody of so-called justice.
Well, I'm glad a lot of the girls that I knew when I was 16, 17 years old don't remember when I whipped my dick out in front of them. And I thank God that I'm not a fucking politician.
Yeah, who can survive that level of scrutiny? It's certainly not me.
It's fucking incredible, man. And the power play is really the fact that women, they're chomping at the bit, man.
But you know what? I don't think it's Christine Blasey Ford making the power play here. I see this as the political machine.
Yes.
Simply using her as a prop to score political points and knock down a SCOTUS nomination.
Yes, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. But she's chomping at the bit. The reins are being pulled in, and she's chomping at the bit. She loves it. She loves the attention. She loves the fact that this is giving her some kind of power.
It's a book deal.
Yeah, exactly.
It's her on Oprah.
It's a book deal.
Her on Ellen DeGenerate. I mean, and it's not like it was so traumatizing for her that she couldn't get her PhD. It's not like she wound up doing heroin in a back alley somewhere.
She's alive, and she's on a fucking panel. She's on a fucking front panel. Man.
Yeah, I you know what? I agree with you that she's not like crippled by this.
Right.
But you know what? Like, I can't just gloss over that a sexual assault happened. But that's not actually the point, and I'm just assuming that a sexual assault happened. I'm not going, I just believe her. I'm just gonna, for the sake of argument, assume that the story is true. If it is, this entire fiasco is still grotesque and absurd.
Yeah, of course. We know that. We know that, John.
Yeah.
I mean, so regardless of what it is, it's grotesque and absurd. But
what we have now is, in response to some real assaults and also a narrative in which everything becomes assault, we have now a political movement, if you will, which is coming up with the response to this apparent problem that everybody accused shall be burned to the ground.
Yes.
And that is not viable.
That's the witch huts.
We can't have a civilization like that.
That's the lynchings. I mean, that
Yeah.
goes back to what I was saying about the lynchings. We everything old is new again. What really has
Why don't you
changed?
pull up that wiki article in regards to politics? I mean, there was I showed what's it called?
I got it here.
Pomero Affair.
Yeah,
So it was a power play to knock conservatives, the conservative prime minister, out of power in 1961. So it's a repeat of history. This has gone on before.
Yeah, this is not new. We're not dealing with something new. I'm going to put the wiki link into the chats. So if anybody in the chats wants to look at it, it's called the Profumo Affair. I'll read the first paragraph. The Profumo Affair was a British political scandal that originated with a brief sexual relationship in 1961 between John Profumo, the Secretary of State of War in Harold Macmillan's Conservative government, and Christine Keeler, a 19-year-old would-be model. Okay, suck that in for a moment. In March 1963, Profumo's denial of an impropriety in a personal statement to the House of Commons was refuted a few weeks later with his admission of the truth. He resigned from the government and from Parliament. The repercussions of the affair severely damaged Macmillan's self-confidence, and he resigned as Prime Minister on health grounds in October 1963. His Conservative Party was marked by the scandal, which may have contributed to his defeat by the Labour Party in the 1964 general election.
There you go. It's the left again.
If you can't argue politics, you argue emotion and sexual politics.
Character failings, right?
Character failings.
You push your opponent through the finest mesh screen that you can until you find, you sieve them. You pulp them and you look for bits.
Like cheese through a cheese.
Well, John, you know who that doesn't work on? Donald Trump. That's right. It doesn't work on him.
Maybe.
And they hate him. They hate him for it.
Donald is a special kind of... he's a special guy.
I know, it's wild.
But this is the point of this is that this is not new. The hashtag is new. The technology is new. I mean, when John Profumo was going through the political scandal in England back in the 60s, there was no Twitter. So your average Marxist brainwashed plebe couldn't...
The normies, the dirty unwashed, you and me.
Yeah, the dirty... They couldn't make their opinion known. Right?
Look, you got to give the people something good to read on a Sunday.
Well, that's the whole point, right?
Yep.
I mean, as part...
I'm somewhat optimistic, though, that it has become so excessive and so pervasive now that people are going to revolt against it and say, "Look, enough is enough. We can't have our politics like this, where every single person of accomplishment gets pushed through this sieve. We can't have our entertainers we can't have our comedians taken away from us. We can't have our entertainment shut down because some." Screeching choir of puritanical, and that's what they are. They're puritanical,
they're
feminist
zealots, man.
Killjoys.
They're zealots.
Are just going to take everything away from us that we like and suppress human behavior.
Well, the TV's dead. I mean, TV is doesn't know it's dead. It's like radio in 1940. They don't seem to realize that it's over.
Yeah, it pretty much is. And I mean, and with the only reason there is still TV is that not everybody has a computer yet.
No, the only reason people have TV is because the baby boomers haven't died off yet. Once they're dead, the TV is done.
It's over.
And I honestly believe that's the big threat to what we consider popular media today through television, the Fox News, the CNBC, CNN. They're dying. It's done. They're trying to catch up, but it's over. The only people I know that watch television today are my 70-year-old mother and her 75-year-old boyfriend. Those are the only people that watch it.
Right.
Yeah, I think people still own TVs, but mostly just so they can
play video games.
Play video games or like watch Game of Thrones with their friends on a big screen or something.
Netflix or Hulu.
Yeah.
I haven't watched TV since 2011.
I haven't watched TV since the mid '90s.
Yeah, me neither. I think probably mid '90s is. I used to actually own a TV, and I kind of got rid of it because I was moving frequently, and I just felt like it was luggage. And for a while, I had people always being really shocked that I didn't own a TV.
Yeah.
And I used to explain, no, I can waste my time far more efficiently with a computer than with a TV.
Yeah.
I can half-ass 6 things at once instead of half-assing one thing.
Yes, absolutely.
So true.
Porn,
MGTOW, YouTube.
I remember telling my
C-SPAN.
cousin.
I got C-SPAN in one window and a porn in the other window, man.
I remember telling my cousin when this must have been in the mid '90s. I hadn't seen him in years, and he came out to visit me on the West Coast. He's like, and I said, yeah, I haven't had a TV in fucking, I don't know, 5-6 years. And he's like, oh God, how can you handle being so poor? I'm like, what?
Poor?
Like, what are you talking about, man?
I got 4 laptops. One for each hand.
Absolutely. It's a different generation, man. It's done. And I think a lot of the power play that we're seeing as far as, well, let's just say the hashtag MGTOW movement or the sexual politics that's been it was born a century ago in the modern concepts of it, and it's still happening today. But really, the thing they're terrified the most is that the original concepts of propaganda through media consumption is dying. So we're in a state of readjusting.
When you say everything new or everything old is new again, I just kind of flashed on the White Feather campaign of the First World War.
Right.
Which was, for those who don't know about this, the First World War was a conscript towards the end, but there was a lot of voluntary enlistment in the armed forces, and there was a huge amount of social shame on men of soldiering age who were not in uniform. So if you were out in public not in a uniform, you get funny looks, and people would maybe call you names or call you a coward, using the slang of the time. And the most crushing of these types of social pressuring was to be given a white feather by a woman.
Yes.
Which was like being given a badge of cowardice.
Yeah.
And it was like, you're a coward unless you go get enlisted and get yourself up to the front line and serve your country. Basically. Yeah. And I think probably the public at the time didn't quite understand the absolute suicide that was, because this was the first time that we'd had modern trench warfare. But there were lots of guys who were just not like, I'm not doing that. It's stupid. You can go F yourself. Yeah. And some sort of intellectuals or sort of the Milo Yiannopoulos types,
Soros,
would actually collect white feathers and wear them proudly. Like, yeah, you know what you can do with your social pressure?
Yeah.
Give me a white feather, I'll put it next to these 3, right here on my lapel. And I think it was sort of a very early and honestly kind of a brave early form of MGTOW, but it's the accusation of you're not a good man. Yes. Which is really what the accusations are now, because what's her face, the Christina Blasey Ford is not saying that Kavanaugh is a guy raping his legal secretaries or people on an ongoing basis. She's saying this one incident at a high school party that she was apparently at, that she doesn't actually have any clear memories of. This is what we're going to stamp him with. The actual history of his, his legacy as a judge and as a lawyer and as a legal clerk, that for the last 30 years and all the people who've been through his courtroom. Nope, none of that matters. My little story here matters. That's the stamp we're going to put on this guy. It's the white feather.
That's a white feather. Yeah, absolutely. 100% absolutely. And God, this is why I called it, when a black male MGTOW talked about lynching and white supremacy, I said there was only two. The white supremacy equated to this: white women and white knights. That was your white supremacy. It had nothing to do with race.
No, it had to do with maintaining the social power.
Yeah.
And you know what? I'm going to trespass here. From the perspective of somebody who's black, which obviously is not my perspective, I can see how that's very easy to go. That's white supremacy.
Yeah.
Like I'm not gonna quibble when they say that's white supremacy, because obviously that doesn't land on me. It lands on him.
White pussy supremacy.
Yeah. Anyway, I think we've pretty much covered it, have we?
Yeah, I think so. We've covered it. I think to wrap it up, we'll just see who's got something to say in the comments. Because I don't do what do you call it? Power talk, power chats. What the fuck do they call it?
One guy asked about single mom in real estate.
What do you say?
Think of how much more water consumption goes on when you take the guy out of the house, when there's a woman and taking care of her children in a house. So there's more of a strain on resources when it comes to single mothers in real estate.
Absolutely, totally agree with that. Another Rico.
It's another car.
It's another car. It's another. It's everything, man. It's another driveway or another parking spot. I mean, that's one thing I'm learning about is like not only do you get a car, but you gotta have a spot to put it.
Mm-hmm.
You gotta pay for that shit too. Here's a question for John from Rico Champagne.
Yeah, I just responded in text. I'll just read it out. The question is, what do you think of Paul Elam, my former boss at A Voice for Men, encroaching into MGTOW some more? Well, I was thrown out of A Voice for Men, I will freely admit, thrown unceremoniously on my ass out of that organization because we had a growing and protracted disagreement principally about MGTOW that at the time, and I haven't actually paid attention to what Paul's doing, so I'll just have to take it on faith that maybe he's doing something similar. Paul was arguing that MGTOW could and did include married men, and I just couldn't handle that because that's like saying you can be vegetarian and eat only steaks. And I understood why he was doing it is because most of his donators, most of his financial supporters were married guys, and at the time MGTOW was the really rising phenomenon in the men's movement, and so it sort of had this cool sizzle to it, and he wanted to be able to give sort of a cool club jacket, and I don't mean an actual jacket, but he wanted to be able to tell his married financial supporters that they could wear the MGTOW badge because it was, everybody wanted to be the cool kid, right?
Yeah.
And my view was that you cannot subvert the definition of the thing that is the most effective just to make some money and still be legit. So we Paul and I disagreed quite strongly on that, and it resulted in me being unceremoniously fired.
That's incredible.
Which I was a little teed off at the time, but I'm certainly not regretful of it now.
Without
It's a He-Man's woman hater club.
Yeah.
Holy crap. It's like what I brought up in the beginning of the show with the concept, without blaming black women, why are there so many absent black fathers? Well, without blaming the weekend, why are there so many schools empty on Saturday and Sunday? It's like you can't pretend that you're going to school on Sunday.
So really, it's an ignorant question.
It is.
I mean, are you that stupid?
It is an absolute ignorant question.
Yeah, and I, you know what, I don't worry about what Paul does. If Paul wants to have a MGTOW that has married guys in it, you know, okay, fine, because like it's not really a phenomenon that is led by a leader, right?
Yeah,
there's
no fucking leader.
Bunch of cucks.
Yeah, so you know the guys who plot out a MGTOW path themselves, they're gonna take a little bit of what I say. They're gonna take a little bit of what Sandman says. They're gonna take a little bit from Nice Guy's blog from last week or 10 years ago or whatever, and they're gonna go, okay, this seems good. This is crap. What John the other said, fuck that guy, I hate him.
Yeah.
But what Sandman said, yeah, that sounds okay. It's like every single guy is gonna do that. There's no like following John or following Paul, or there's no following really. No. These are all just ideas. You like this idea, it works for you, great. Doesn't work for you, fine. I'm a dirtbag.
Well, that's the whole point, and I think in the end. Oh, and by the way, to our listeners, I've had confirmation that I will have. Oh God, what's his name again? We're gonna have
Paul.
Not Paul. We're not going to get Paul on. Well, hold on a second. Not Paul. I'm talking about Chapin. Man. Chapin.
Oh,
remember
Bern.
Chapin?
Uncle Bern.
Yeah, Uncle Bern, man. We're going to get Uncle Bern on. Chapin. And Chapin, mind you, when I think... It's funny because I'm doing it because a person that's donated wants it to happen. So I just like, I never would have thought of that.
Well, fill us in on who it is.
Bernard Chapin. Who the donor is?
No, Chapin.
Oh, everybody knows who Bernard Chapin is. Everybody that's listening to this chat knows who Bernard Chapin is. He might even be listening right now. The point is that I've been subscribed to the guy a long time, but there was always this sort of, and John knows from the past, there was this sort of hatred between those communities. Like, if you called yourself MGTOW but they're part of the MRA, like you couldn't get along.
Yeah, you know what? I don't mind that because, and like even within MGTOW, if you want to call it a community, there's lots of guys like this guy's a bastard and this guy's a stupid idiot and so and so doesn't get along with so and so. That's fine. That's perfectly fine. It actually keeps the community really healthy because people don't just follow a name. They don't just follow someone because they got a high subscriber count. As soon as they go off script, if they're talking a bunch of dumb shit, they will get schooled really fast.
Yes, but that's part of the fracturing. I mean, if everyone can be uniform and work more together, you'd be able to accomplish more. I mean, men are completely fractured. We're not connected. There's no more tribe. Families are broken. So when it's more and more fractured like that within MGTOW, within the MRAs, it's really not healthy in the long term.
Well, the thing is that the fracturing is inevitable. I mean, we've reached that breaking point. Like, men are going to be fractured. We've been led down a path that has lied to us for a long, long time. It's like one of those. You know how you stick a ring through a bull's nose, and then you grab that ring and you can just lead that fucking bull around the stadium by that ring. I mean, this is what's happening to men, and you can't expect them to suddenly experience freedom after being led around by the nose for so fucking long. And yeah, men are waking up, and yeah, they call it MGTOW, and there's MRAs and there's disagreements. But like John said, there's no leader. Like, you can't point a finger at one person and say, but that's really what masculinity is. I mean, masculinity, whether we like it or not, is competition. And
it is. It's highly individualistic.
Yeah, it's very individualistic. It's a competition, and if one person isn't have the capacity to lead a crowd, then we just push him away and we move on to the next guy, or we move on to the next idea. And the beautiful thing about masculinity, as far as it being competitive, is that we're competitive with ideas.
But it's productive too. It's not like people just get destroyed, because I've had just elements of the YouTube MGTOW community decide I'm a no good so and so from time to time. And the first time it happened, I was like, oh, that was all sad. Yeah. But it's like, fine, you learn. Okay, nobody likes this idea. I guess I'll just shut up about it, or I'll have to come up with a better argument to support what I'm saying.
Exactly, and that's one of the things that I've learned, that I've loved most about the concept of masculinity, is the free enterprise of ideas. Like, if we believe feminism, it's men beating the shit out of each other to kind of be some kind of supreme juggernaut, which is a load of shit. In fact, men, in reality, weigh one another based on their ability to express ideas and let it be understood. And if that is the fail-safe of masculinity, then we're in a good position, man.
Yeah,
this goes back to it being. Goes back to our.
You know what? Yeah, so go ahead.
No, I was going to say is that this goes back to one of our earlier conversations, that it's a form of feudalism, that we look for a leader.
Yes, I think MGTOW, in a sense, is a direct, not response, but it's an opposite of what feudalism means. The free market of ideas means that you judge a person based on how well their ideas reflect in the real world, for yourself and everybody else around you. And I really think that's where MGTOW strives. And this is one of the reasons I believe that Elam eventually started using the MGTOW nomiker. And I think this is the same reason why Chapin started using it. And he started to denounce Rocking Mystery and his good buddies that said MGTOW was shit.
Yeah, the thing is, I'm perfectly happy to see people say MGTOW is shit.
Yes,
because they're just as good as advertisement as someone making a really strong argument in favor of it.
Yes.
Because, if you're so exercised about something that you have to call it, nasty names, well, then it's at least interesting enough for someone to get exercised, so that you're exposing people to the idea.
Absolutely.
But I think what you were saying about the productive competition between men, we're almost in the territory here of classical Stoicism and the concepts articulated by Nicholas Nassim Taleb, which I'm going to mention a book of his, which probably most of the people in the call have read, called Anti-Fragile. Is anybody familiar with that?
No, let's put it up in the chats. What's the name of it again?
It's the title is Anti-Fragile.
Okay.
And it's actually useful, if you're going to read that, to also read a previous book of his called The Black Swan. Now, the term Black Swan, it's actually no dash, it's just all one word, but a black swan is a unforeseen disastrous event. And this can be in the domain of economics, it can be in the domain of, a rogue weather event tearing the roof off your house.
Nature, politics, emotion.
Yeah. A black swan is just a catastrophic, unpredictable event that fucks everything up. And that term is talked about quite a lot in Anti-Fragile, but it's articulated more fully in the book called The Black Swan.
Well, what are they referring it to? What type of black swan are we talking about? Are we talking about economic?
Yeah, economic,
political,
social, political, warlike, business, and so on. Mm-hmm. So it's an encompassing term. And the term anti-fragile is in the first half of the book, he talks quite a bit about people with salaried jobs and with careers, particularly in like a public sector union, like a teachers union or a labor union. People become rigid when they have that kind of security. They stop innovating. They stop testing the boundaries. And if you take somebody who has been acculturated to a stable, safe, secure job environment and you suddenly drop them in the midst of the free market where there is no security, they very often have a very difficult time until they can adjust. But if you take somebody who is in a dynamic, uncertain environment and has adapted their behavior to that, they are what Taleb calls anti-fragile, which is to say they profit, they grow stronger, and they grow more capable through the continued climate of adversity that they operate within.
So they increase their ability to adapt through the diversity, or not the diversity, but the climate of
through the uncertainty and the flux of whatever environment they're operating within. And the reason I'm talking about this is your discussion of the productive conflict between men in men's environments is one of the manifestations of anti-fragility.
Yes, beautiful. Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. Absolutely. This is something that I've witnessed and I've watched it among different men's groups, just among men. I mean, if you're a man,
it's being thick-headed. I call it being thick-headed. No.
Well, thick-headed could be a way to see it, but the idea is masculinity, or what is now called toxic masculinity, is the ability to be an individual, be competitive.
Now, fuck you. I'm right.
Yeah, absolutely. Even to that degree, but still, in the end, come out on top. Anti-fragile, as John had said it, and that's a fucking fantastic way of saying it, man.
Damn tradcon.
Incredible.
Anyway, gentlemen, I'm going to have to wrap this up because I've sort of got some things piling up here.
No, that's a good way to wrap it up.
Well, it was great for you to come on. We haven't heard from you in a while. You sound good.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, you're sharp as always, man. You're sharp as always.
Okay.
It's mentioned in the comments. We'll see you again, and I'll keep in touch, okay?
All right, thanks, man.
One more thing.
Yep.
If you have a link for Lighthouse, send it to me.
Oh, I do. Yes.
Send it to me in Skype, and I will put it in the show notes, okay?
Yeah, I just posted. Oh, I'm not allowed to post an address. Okay.
No, you got to put it in Skype. Put it in Skype.
Yeah. Type a message here. So, I'll just give you like a little 30-second, self-serving pitch for Lighthouse right now.
Ahead.
Lighthouse is a nonprofit started by Diana Davison and myself. We are not lawyers, but what we do is help people navigate through a false accusation, and we help them put their case together. We also help them survive psychologically by letting them know they're not alone. And we're crowdfunded. We don't charge people any money when they are our clients. We run the entire thing based on a donation model through PayPal and Patreon, and we are always in gratitude for anybody who wants to help us do that with like $2 a month or $5 a month or what have you.
Beautiful.
And there.
I'm glad you got a chance to say that, man, because I know you wanted to, and I'm happy for you. I'm really happy for what you're doing. And guys, please help him out if you can. This is a beautiful concept and project, and he's doing it right here.
Yeah. Okay, thank you so much for having me, and thanks for listening, everybody.
All right, take care, John.
Okay, bye.
See you next time. All right.
Well, that was great.
It was good. Let's see who's still paying attention. Who's still here?
You know what you should do?
What?
Because I just sent it to you maybe a couple hours ago. That Lindsay Lohan article about what she did in Moscow.
I got it. I got it up somewhere. Yeah, here it is. All right, guys, I'm going to share this article with you before we hit the sack here. Share screen. Now, first of all, Lamprey, who the fuck is Lindsay Lohan?
A washed up actress slash singer slash Broadway star slash Cosmo girl. I don't. That's about what sums it up.
So just a celebrity fucking chick, guy, rich from birth.
From South Shore, Long Island. Thank you for making me so fucking proud. God damn it.
So the article says Lindsay Lohan gets punched in the face after accusing refugee parents of trafficking, trying to take the kids. Now look at this picture of this woman. She looks like a goddamn ghoul. You know what a ghoul is?
She used to be so hot.
She looks like a ghoul, man.
Well, she's over 30, so...
Yeah, she looks like a half-dead woman that's floating through a crypt. It's fucking horrible.
So she accused the parents of the children of human trafficking.
Yeah. So there's a bunch
and
of...
the parents beat her up.
Yeah, so she's probably on drugs, guaranteed. She's emotionally unstable, probably sexually abused 24 times in her life. She's a celebrity, probably on drugs, and she sees these Syrian, I guess, according to her, they were Syrian refugee parents.
Correct.
And they're walking down the street with their children, and she took out her phone and started to videotape herself saying, "Hey, I met a Syrian refugee family. I'm introducing you to them." And I'm going to play the video. Here, you can't hear it.
Hey, I didn't even see the video.
Okay, well, let me share it on.
It's great.
Let me share it on Skype, man. I'll share my screen on Skype. Okay, you're gonna see what I'm seeing on Skype. So you ready? And everybody else is watching; they can see it too.
I just want to show you a family that I met. That's a Syrian refugee family. That I'm really about in Paris. I'm going to introduce you to them. And they really need help.
She's walking through traffic.
Tell me your story so I can help you. Look what's happening. They're trafficking children. Inshallah. I won't leave until I take you.
She's obviously...
Now I know who you are.
She's obviously been in Saudi Arabia.
Don't fuck with me.
She sounds like a mess.
Yeah. Oh, she's fucked up.
This is the Arab. This is not Arab. You're ruining Arab culture by doing this.
I wonder how many Arab assholes were shat in her mouth.
I'm with you. I'm with you. Boys, don't worry.
She's trying to kidnap the children.
The whole world is seeing this right now. Hello.
She's the one trafficking.
Is he your son?
Yeah, she's trying to take the kids to traffic them.
From Pakistan. Don't fuck with Pakistan.
Don't fuck with Pakistan.
Don't fuck with Pakistan.
Give me
She's definitely had Arab shit in her mouth, man. Gets punched in the face.
Akbar.
And they were trying to run me, and I'm just...
Okay, that woman is out of her fucking mind.
You can take the girl out of Long Island, but you can't take the Long Island out of the girl.
Out of her fucking mind. But, I mean, this is... I saw a lot of women like this in Southeast Asia. Western women.
Yep.
That were, you know... I don't know. For whatever reason they were there, they were ahead of everybody else. They were too privileged. I want to save the little Indonesian boy from his troubles.
Poverty porn.
Yeah, poverty porn. That's poverty porn to a next level, man.
Yep.
An absolute next level.
Meanwhile, Lindsay Lohan's parents are losing their house.
Well, there you go.
So hypergamy didn't flow for Lindsay Lohan.
No, her hypergamy still floats as long as she's young enough. eventually it will stop floating. Eventually. Oops. Sorry guys, I actually hung up on Nick.
Sorry, I lost you there,
No, I hung up on you by accident.
asshole.
I was trying to turn shit down. We're still
Well,
on,
it's like I s- you know what I go back to and what I like to hawk back on is the fact where Me Too came from.
yeah.
I mean that's really important. I mean it's covering up pedophilia.
Yes.
It's covering up what the Clintons have done. What is the other guy? Anthony Weiner. Pizzagate. Gets tied right into Me Too. I don't think people really understand the interconnecting web.
Nobody wants to
that-
talk about Pizzagate.
Or Corey Feldman.
Or Corey Feldman. Nobody wants to talk about it because it's too frightening. It's too conspiratorial. But the reality is that a lot of this hashtag Me Too movement, it all comes from the idea that, well, if we can turn it all on evil men versus Jewish white women, then we can forget the fact that Hollywood is raping children. I mean, that's really the reality.
It mirrored. It deflected it. They deflected the Harvey Weinstein allegations right back onto the general public.
Yeah.
So we have no inquiry on what's going on behind the scenes at Hollywood, but we'll crucify the Republican Supreme Court nominee.
Absolutely, man. And again, like you said, we never really went over the wiki profile on Profumo, the British political scandal in the 60s. This stuff has been happening for decades, for centuries, for Christ's sake. And it's a good tactic. It works well, and we have to deal with it. So as MGTOW, you have to understand that you're being manipulated. Your emotions are being manipulated, especially as a man.
Sexually, you're being manipulated.
Sexually, you're being manipulated. As a woman, you have the power over that manipulation. As a man, you don't. You're being manipulated, and that's why you got to walk away from it. Right? I mean, it's time to just wake up, walk away from this bullshit.
Just walk away, man.
We spent 2.5 hours almost talking to John. And he went through the system of the MRA until MGTOW, and he understood the conflict that happened between these people and these men. But the reality is men are being used as fodder. All right? You're cannon fodder, man. That's where the word comes from. You stand in front of a cannon, it's fired, you're killed. That's it. So, anyway, let's wrap it up, man. Let's wrap it up, Lamprey. And all right. We'll come back again and talk to our brothers.
Hopefully, we'll put a Me Too to rest now for a while.
Hopefully, yes.
But it's not going away.
It's
not going away. I don't know how much more the general public can withstand this onslaught of sexuality in social media, on TV. I mean, it's everywhere. It's all pervasive. It's eventually the general public is going to regurgitate this.
Well, a lot of people are going MGTOW because of it, even though they don't call it that by name. But
we didn't even talk about the sex dolls tonight.
No, we didn't. But we will get into that. It's a big thing. Again, guys, this is the world we live in. So, be careful.
You'll be humping Pirelli tires. You'll be humping Pirelli tires, and looking at living women will be considered rape, and you'll get thrown in jail for looking at a female for more than 10 seconds.
Well, you'll be
like it is in Australia.
You'll be under the thumb of a matriarchy, man. You won't have any choice but to believe a woman and to believe yourself to be a victim. I mean, you will be. It's Jim Crow.
And knowing women's mentality, they'll find something else to complain about.
Exactly.
That you did.
You're Jim Crow. Don't even worry about race.
They're gonna put a camera in your kitchen to make sure you wash the dishes, even when you're single and not married or have a girlfriend.
Absolutely. Look, we men are the nigger of the world. I wrote the song. It was a parody off of fucking John Lennon. It's online. It got one of that series got torn down, but it's reality. Men are the nigger of the world. It's Jim Crow again. It's happening right now. Don't fool yourself.
All right, man.
All right, let's take care.
Get up again.
Yep. See you, man.
Ciao.